Hello, welcome to The Wandering Drew. I am Drew. Thank you for joining me today. I'd like to wish everyone a Happy New Year, and I hope everyone had a great holiday season. This will be the first episode that I'm recording in the new year. Additionally, I've recorded this video about 3 or 4 different times, and I've had some technical difficulties, so it's getting late in my production cycle, so I'm kind of in a hurry to get it out. So hopefully everything goes well with this version and I can put it out there. On today's episode, I'd like to discuss hiring a shuttle driver. There are many times that you may need to hire a shuttle driver or someone to take you from one place to another. You may be starting your hike and you need to get to the trailhead. You may be finishing your hike and you need to get from the trailhead. You may need to resupply, or perhaps equipment has failed or an injury has occurred and you need to get into town to either resupply, get the gear fixed, or get to a medical facility. For all these reasons, you may need a shuttle, or basically a ride from one place to another. Stay tuned for some tips on hiring a shuttle driver. Welcome back. Sometimes it's just not practical or feasible to get yourself to or from the trail. This is especially true when you start doing longer trails or you begin doing hikes that are just not loops, so you end up at some place other than when you started. Additionally, it is not always possible to pre-position a vehicle where you're going to end up. While it may be possible for you, if you're doing, let's say, a 40-mile hike, to drive to the trail with 2 vehicles, park one at the 40-mile mark, and then both of you drive back in one car, that's not always practical. If you're driving by yourself, obviously you don't have a second vehicle. Even if you are traveling, it doesn't mean you will have a second vehicle available. And additionally, this runs into some logistical issues. It obviously costs more to drive 2 vehicles to the trailhead in both gas, tolls, if there are any, and you also increase your chances of having a mechanical breakdown the more vehicles you have. Secondly, if you're traveling in separate vehicles, you can't spend that time together discussing your hike and other things. You have to separate, and it means you also can't share driving responsibilities. So each driver or both vehicles have to be operated by separate drivers and driven. So this increases the workload on the people involved. It's much nicer if you can all travel in one vehicle and split the driving, perhaps. Makes it easier for everyone. You can arrive at the trail maybe a little refreshed and not quite so tired from a long day's drive. Another example of when it's not possible to pre-position a vehicle, in the previous example, I used 40 miles as, let's say, a target for finishing the hike. But what if you're not doing a hike based on how many miles you're doing, but based on time? So, for instance, let's say you have 10 days to do a hike. Well, you can't always be sure of exactly how much distance you're going to cover in 10 days. You may have a plan or a target that you're looking for, but what if during the hike you end up hiking less? What if there's an injury and it delays you? What if equipment fails and it delays you from reaching that target? At the end of 10 days, let's say you're 10 miles or 15 miles short of your target. What do you do then? You have no choice except to either continue walking or get a ride. So it is much easier, if you know you're definitely hiking to a certain point, to pre-position a vehicle. But if you're not sure where you're going to end up, you don't know where to pre-position the vehicle because you have no idea where you're going to end up. So it makes it more challenging. So in many of these cases, your best option is to get a shuttle or a ride from one place to another in order for you to hike. As I've mentioned previously in other videos, if you have a family member or a friend that's willing to drive you to or from the trail, that is probably your best option. Generally, they're going to be more attentive to you because you have a relationship with them. And secondly, more often than not, they're going to be a lot cheaper than a shuttle driver would be. You may just have to buy them a meal or so and pay for some gas, but usually they're going to be your best option. If you traveled a far distance to get to the trail, like let's say by plane or train or a bus, you're going to need to hire somebody. In areas that are more populous, you may be able to use Lyft or Uber or even car service or a taxi to get you to a park or trailhead. But that's not always the case in some of the areas that we choose to hike. A lot of them are located in remote areas and they're not willing or able to use these services in the area, or they may not be willing to drive out to such a remote site due to the distance and the time that it takes to get out there and get back. Where can you find a shuttle driver? Well, there are many resources that you have, and it's never been easier to find a shuttle driver. Obviously, the internet is going to be a great resource for you. Besides doing a search for drivers that are in the area, almost all trails have some sort of user group, or most commonly a Facebook group, but there may be other social media groups as well that people constantly are discussing things about the trail, what's going on, even signage, blowdowns, if the trail is being rerouted, conditions on the trail, and a lot of that will be people asking for assistance. So you can easily just find the group that covers the trail you're interested in doing. On most of these social media sites or Facebook user group, you'll be able to post a request to all the members asking if they can recommend a shuttle driver for you. You may be able to find a trail angel or someone that likes to do things to assist hikers just because they like giving back or helping hikers, hence the term angel, and they're helping out people on the trail if they're able to assist you. So you might want to start out, is there anyone out there that can give me a ride on this day from, let's say, the airport to the trailhead? If they're able to help you, they'll usually respond back. At that point, I would generally email them directly. Usually you'll link up, and then you can take your conversation more direct and pointed on what you need. I would be as specific as possible in my initial request. So I wouldn't just say, can someone give me a ride to the airport without giving them a date. Obviously, that changes things. Trail angels usually do this because they're trying to give back to the trail. They may be hikers themselves that have had people do good deeds for them, and they want to give back to other hikers and help them. Some people are just very friendly and want to support the trail. Some of them are hikers that hike other trails, or they're part of the group that manages the trail. The club that may manage the trail has a lot of people that will usually be able to help you out. So they'll be your cheapest bet, because a lot of them charge very little or nothing to do this. They just want to give back to the trail. If you can be specific and let them know that you need a ride on Saturday morning, from, let's say, your hotel to the trailhead, that's going to be your best option. But be aware that since these people are doing this out of the kindness of their heart, it's not their business. They usually have other jobs that take up their time and other commitments, and they may not be available when you need them. But if you don't ask, you're never going to get an answer. Now, what I consider a shuttle driver is someone that does this as a full-time business for pay. And these people are basically professionals that do this for a living. So realize that in certain places they're going to book up fast, but most of the time they're pretty available. Additionally, there's usually more than one of them. So your best way to locate them is, once again, using the user group. You can place it out there. Can anyone recommend the shuttle driver? Just a blanket request like that will usually generate several responses. And these responses are really good, because I don't know anyone that recommends a service that they weren't satisfied with and had a problem with. So if someone is recommending a shuttle driver, that means they generally had a good experience or have had good experiences with them in the past. If they didn't, they'll usually warn you not to use a certain shuttle driver. but they won't recommend one. So the recommendations from other people are generally pretty good ones. Additionally, you'll usually see the same names in certain areas pop up over and over. And these are drivers that are well known in the area and have built up a very good client base. So you can be sure that they're both professional and they're going to do a good job. One of the things you want to settle on very clearly is what date and time you need them for, and where the ride is being picked up, and where you're being shuttled to. The other thing that's going to be important is cost. You definitely want to settle the price as clearly as possible. There should be no, well, we'll discuss that when we get there. You need to know so that you have the cash on hand, and these drivers routinely are cash only, and you want to make sure that you know that you're getting into based on how many people you have, how far you need to go, all the other variables that go into it. If you can split the ride with another hiker at the same time, you may be able to lower your costs. Even a trail angel that doesn't want any money, I think, should be given something for their time. Their gas, the wear and tear on their car, and their time are worth something. Additionally, I like to give them a little something because it enables them to continue doing what they're doing. Put gas in their car, fix their vehicle, get an oil change, so that they can continue to help hikers in the future. If we all just take their services without ever giving back, then there's a chance that that person may not be able to do this in the future. Additionally, most trails have some sort of club or controlling authority over them, some sort of conservancy or group that manages the trail. They're responsible for the management and the maintenance that goes on the trail. They may have a list of shuttle drivers on their website, or sometimes you can contact or email them and ask them if they can recommend somebody. The same goes for the visitor centers or the rangers that work in the national park. Just realize that sometimes some companies or agencies may not be allowed or permit their employees to recommend a certain vendor or shuttle driver because they don't want to seem like they're authorizing that vendor or recommending them over other vendors. But most of these people will be able to steer you toward a website or other location that you can find shuttle drivers. Don't forget to check your trail guides, as they frequently have a list of shuttle drivers in them. Additionally, on the social media pages, many hikers will give you suggestions on how you can accomplish your ride or your shuttle, and they may even come up with ideas that you didn't know of because you're not familiar with the area, or they may have used some other service that you're not aware of. So there may be a company in the area that provides shuttles. There may even be a public transportation option that you're not aware of. Even places that don't have scheduled public transportation routes may have a route during certain times of the season or for special events that you may not be aware of, but may be coming up. And these people can advise you of that. Of course, there's always a chance that someone who's not a real trail angel all the time, but just another hiker, may be able or willing to help you out on the date and time you need it. But if you don't get on the social media site and ask, you'll never know. The shuttle drivers are usually part of the user group, and they may respond and actually directly offer their services to you. Remember, you're hiring this person, and you have an expectation that they're going to provide a service and do a job for you, but also don't be unreasonable. You can counteroffer their price, but that doesn't mean that they'll be willing to budge on it. Multiple shuttle drivers can respond to you. You should be able to ask several shuttle drivers for estimates and their availability for the date and time that you need them. This way, you can compare their estimates and decide which one works best for you. You may be able to narrow it down to only 3 or 4 or 2 that are available for the date and time you need them. That's when I usually like to make contact with them and speak to them on the phone. I like to gauge a person's personality before I do business with them. So a phone call is really the way to do that. Email just doesn't cut it. Be as clear as possible as you can in what you need or want from them. If you do need to stop off somewhere, let them know that. Let them know exactly how many people are coming, how many bags, if you're traveling with an animal or not. If your travel plans are flexible and you can go a different day or a different time, or even share a ride with another hiker That may change your cost and their availability. Your shuttle driver will most likely be very knowledgeable about the trail and the area, and they're a great resource for you. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. Pick their brain. Ask them questions about the area that you have or are unfamiliar with. Remember, they may know where you can leave your car safely so it won't be broken into or vandalized or towed. They may know areas that you might be able to leave for free. There may be a church or a VFW post or a Kiwanis club that is friendly to hikers and will let you leave your vehicle there if you're hiking. Or they may know a campground that will let you leave your vehicle there for a small fee, or if you're staying there during your trip. These are all things that can save you money. They'll know where the outfitters are. They'll know where the resupply points are. They'll know possible locations to get resupplied while you're on the trail, where the trailheads are and roads cross. These are all things that can help you in the future. If you need a resupply while you're hiking, you may be able to arrange that with your shuttle driver to meet you somewhere along a road and get you additional food so you don't have to get off the trail. That might be worth you arranging in advance. They may also be able to tell you which hostels to stay at, which hotels to stay at, what towns you may want to definitely stop at along the trail for resupply points when you're doing your planning. All these small tips can save you money. And if they do save you money, show your appreciation to your shuttle driver by giving them a tip. Also, a recommendation. A recommendation is the best way you can tip them going forward because it means more business for them. It enables them to stay in business doing what they're doing now and help you and other hikers in the future. I usually tell someone, if I recommend them, let them know that I sent you to them so that when I contact them later on, maybe I need a shuttle, they'll know that I'm the person that gave them some business, and it may assist me in my dealings with them in the future. Realize that they can be a resource for you while you're hiking. They can be a contact that you can keep with while you're hiking, and they can aid you as you go along. They can let you know weather conditions, trail conditions. I've even had a shuttle driver contact me a week after my hike was over to ask me if I completed my hike. He dropped me off and left. Never knew if we finished or not. So that was a very good business point from him as well, because now I appreciated that he took the time out a week later to find out if I finished my hike. I find that they are interested in you and completing your hike and your safety. Based on all your contact and dealings with the shuttle drivers that you reach out to, you'll have to make a decision on who you want to hire. This is just like hiring any other service. You pick the person you like. Obviously, cost or price is important, but it's not the only thing. If a person is very knowledgeable and helps you out, is willing to meet you when you need them, even though if he's charging a little bit more, you might decide to go with him over the person that can meet you at the time you want, but really didn't communicate very well, or you get a bad feeling from them, or they just don't seem very interested in doing business with you. It's all up to you. Your shuttle driver should be able to advise you where you're going to be meeting so that you can be positive you're at the right location. He should be able to give you very concise directions. Your shuttle driver should be able to give you a description of the vehicle they're going to be in. If it's not marked, hopefully it has a sign on it, but not always. They also should be able to tell you exactly where they want you to meet them and the time. If it's a very crowded location, you want to know what type of vehicle they're in. I've even sent my shuttle driver pictures of my car that I'm driving so that he can meet me, because there are many shades of the same color. Blue doesn't always denote what the color of my car is, or green. There are different colors. So having a picture enables them to find me easier. I like to always be early, but at least be on time. You expect them to be professional and be on time, you should be the same. This is a business arrangement. They should not have to be waiting for you. Now, if they're meeting you at a trailhead, there is a possibility that you may be running a little late. You need to make these plans. If you're meeting someone on the trail at the end of your hike or somewhere along a road, that's going to be a little bit more challenging. Don't forget to make contact with them. Make sure you have a way you can contact them as you're hiking. Remember, the summits, usually you can make a phone call and hit a cell tower, at least text, and that can keep them apprised of your location. Amend your plans as needed. If something changes, communicate that immediately to your shuttle driver, even before you get there. If you have to bring an extra bag or an extra hiker or an animal is going with you, you want them to know that as soon as possible. Don't surprise them and just show up with them on the day that they're meeting you. If you're traveling to meet your shuttle driver or to a trailhead that's outside your local area, be aware of a time zone change. I personally have had this happen to me once where I did not account for the hour difference in my time zone to where the trailhead was. And it worked out well because I like to be early and we were on time, but I didn't think about it until the night before when I realized that the time zone had changed. So that's a mistake I hopefully will never make again, even though it came out okay. Realize that the shuttle drivers work in remote areas and they may not be able to answer you or get your message at the last minute or phone you. So that's why email is usually best. They can check it whenever they get a chance to. You just need to decide what you need, when you need it, and how you need it. You decide how you're logistically going to use them. Are you going to have them drop you off at the beginning of the trail, after parking your vehicle at the end of your hike, or somewhere in between? Or are you going to leave a trail midpoint for, resupplying and have them shuttle you to the beginning? It's all up to you. Your shuttle driver will also be able to give you some suggestions of what they've done in the past and they have found to work for a lot of other hikers. But it's up to you because it's your hike. I have used several shuttle drivers and have always had a positive experience. I can't think of once that I have not had a good experience with a shuttle driver. As I mentioned, I find that shuttle drivers are not just out to make money, that they're interested in your hike and providing the service to you. They'll refer you to someone else if they're not able to help you. They will come out at the last minute and help you if they're able to. If you have equipment that broke or an injury, they will make sure that someone can get to you, or they'll give you names and numbers of people that should be able to help you. Several years ago, when I was hiking a portion of the AT in Georgia, my son got injured and I needed to get him to an urgent care facility. I contacted a shuttle driver who will be familiar to anyone in the Springer Mountain area, Ron Brown, who had dropped me off. I advised him what was going on. Ron Brown, despite having plans with his family for that morning, came to pick me and my sons up. It was a 2-hour drive for him to come meet me, an hour drive to get me back to my car, and then another hour and a half for him to get back home. But he came out on short notice. Now, obviously, I paid for his services, and I tipped him well because I appreciated what he did. But this is an example of the lengths they'll go to. This is their job, but they're also out to help people. And in a case like that, where they go above and beyond, or they give you some tips that save you money, show them your appreciation by giving them a tip as well. A lot of hikers are cash-strapped people. They're on a budget. They're doing a through hike, and they need to manage their finances very well. And that means they're not always flush with cash, and they're not willing to spend it in certain areas because they need it later on. So if I'm able to, I like to give a tip to them or a little extra to help them and clear the name of hikers, as well as make sure that they're in business for the future so that other hikers can use them, and hopefully myself as well. In short, the hiring of a shuttle driver can be easy and uneventful with proper communication and planning. Don't let the lack of a ride or the need for a shuttle stop you from going out there and hiking the trail. Use your resources, other hikers, social media, hiking clubs, rangers, visitor centers. All these places can put you on the path to hiring a shuttle driver. Give a shuttle driver a chance, and I'm sure you will be happy with the results. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you liked this video and found it enjoyable or informational, please hit the like button, give it a thumbs up so that I know that it's appreciated. If you feel so inclined, please subscribe to the channel. Please leave a comment below. Let me know some of your experiences with the shuttle driver. Good, maybe even some funny ones, hopefully not some bad ones. But even if they are bad, let us know so that we can learn from each other's experiences. That's what this is all about. Once again, thank you so much for taking time out to watch my video. Till we meet again.